40%. Is that the estate tax today in the U.S. if you don't
That's
different things?
That's the federal piece, Jake. And the reality is, depending on where you live, there may be additional estate taxes with additional thresholds. And that's where things get complicated. So I happen to live in the state of Massachusetts, which I love for many reasons. They have an estate tax on the books, estate tax of 16% with a lower exemption than the federal tax bill. So when I pass away, assuming I still live here in the state of Massachusetts, there's going to be two calculations going on. They're going to do one calculation on what I owe the federal government at that 40% rate, and they're going to do a whole separate calculation on what I owe the state at a 16% rate. And you don't get any credits or deductions from one against the other. You're paying both of those bills. Now, that's the bad news. The good news is the solutions that you put in place to manage one also apply to the other. So, the measures that you can take to right size your estate, to build in some of this estate tax and liquidity upon death protection, those tools are going to be able to solve both of those problems if properly structured.
And so, when you're looking at that, I mean, you get a lifetime gift tax threshold, right? So this isn't going to apply to just anybody and everybody. You have to do pretty well in order to meet that point where you're going to be dealing with the federal level. At the state level, are there lower thresholds than, next year it's going to be 30 million between a married couple that you can pass on without the estate tax, but are there lower thresholds at certain state levels?
That's a good question. And the answer is yes. The thresholds, and we're talking about significantly lower. So, you just mentioned the way that the current tax bill stands and the federal exemption is supposed to go. Pretty soon, we're going to be looking at 30 million of exemption for a married couple. That's a nice buffer there. Depending on the state you're in, combined for a married couple, we could be talking about somewhere between 5 and 10 million is all you get. So for a single person, that's more like 2 to 5 million. And in some states, this will actually also include the value of your primary residence, which the way that, real estate markets have gone, a lot of regular people who bought their homes whenever, their homes are worth, $1 million, maybe $2 million. And they're not necessarily tremendously wealthy. They just bought it in a good time and their real estate is appreciated. Just by the nature of that, you can be subject to these estate taxes. And that doesn't even get into the things that a lot of people are more aware of, like probate, the other issues that can come in just simply from a lack of planning.
Yeah. So if you don't have your stuff put through, a trust or some other mechanism like life insurance to be able to mitigate that probate, all of that's going to become public record. And then you also are going to have to go through the process where people may be fighting over your estate.
That's absolutely right.